I've already done a video on how N-Scale is seeing more and more steam locomotives, and with the release of the latest batch of USRA 462 Pacifics from Broadway Limited, it's a pretty good time to be a steam fan in N-Scale. The USRA Pacifics and their light and heavy variants were fairly popular on the East Coast, particularly with the B&O and the Atlantic coastline. The Boston and Maine also had quite a few of these, including 3688, which is what this model is. This N-Scale model is painted in the Minuteman Fantasy paint scheme. By the way, here's a photo of the actual Boston and Maine 3688. Something cool, but let's take a look at the model itself. The Pacific is equipped with Paragon 4, which includes that onboard capacitor to keep it running on bad track, which is a pretty cool feature. And it has all of the detail that you would expect from Broadway Limited, including separately painted and applied details like whistles, grab irons, ladders, all those things. This fantasy scheme really pops, and it is nice to be able to examine the model closely and to see all of the great tiny details that are on there. Now, one big draw of any model steam locomotive is going to be the wheels and the mechanisms that are around it. And the best part about a Pacific like this one is those 6 drive wheels. They're quite large and show you the mechanisms quite well when they're going by. Being a Broadway Limited engine, you can also expect some pretty nice sound from it as well. Let's go through some of those sounds. Now on to my normal endurance test. Now you guys know that I built the first version of the gauntlet for testing locomotives and it really didn't work out quite right. So still working on that, but I did do the locomotive's endurance test on the inner loop of my railroad because it has the same tighter radii of the gauntlet, and plus it kind of fits better on camera too to show that, and it did totally fine. It will get a full run of the gauntlet once I have it redesigned and completed. Now, I did have a bit of a scare with this one when it shorted itself a couple of times on my double crossover right behind me right here. But after a little bit of investigation, because I was panicking a little bit, it turns out that the points on that turnout were a little loose. Kato, they have a little tiny screw on the set of points, and I just did a little quarter turn to the right and it tightened it down, and that solved the issue. So it was more of a track issue than a locomotive issue. But if you do have issues with Broadway Limited locomotives, they do have a 1-year warranty on all products purchased within 3 years of manufacture, and you can send it off to be repaired. I've actually personally gone through this process. My big boy snagged on some scenery and wrecked a drive rod. I was able to fill out the form online and send it off. It was great. Okay, back to the Pacific. This is a gorgeous little steam engine, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you some beauty shots of this thing running on my layout. Let's do that. have this Locomotive link below if you want to check it out. I'm also linking some of my other N-Scale Steam videos that I've done right here. N-Scale Steam, it has come a long way. I can remember when I was a kid, you always had drive rods falling off and things like that, and steam engines were a lot more finicky in N-Scale. Now, it's always going to be one of those things where they're going to be delicate locomotives just because they're small in size and all of the different very small mechanisms that can break really easily regardless of build quality. But it's really great to have all these options as N-scalers that we didn't have before, and it's great to see more and more being made and more different types coming out as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.